Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight in our news.
The Prime Minister's wife shares her views on those recent abduction cases.
Plus, what to expect at this year's Red Cross Fair.
Our news is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to our news and thanks for joining us. I'm Jared Higgs. Topping news tonight, police have released more information related to the 3 child abductions that detectives think were committed by the same woman. This, as a senior police officer, provided key details of the investigation.
The individual responsible is right out there.
Have you seen this woman? Police believe she is responsible for a series of child abductions dating back to February 16th. This sketch is a third likeness of the woman released to the public, and ACP Clayton Fernandez says a woman was taken into custody and questioned by police on Wednesday night. However, that woman has been released from custody and exonerated.
We are working with a number of other agencies in terms of social service and the crime watch areas in the different communities. We are working along with them.
And what about this vehicle? Officers are also on the hunt for a silver or champagne-colored Nissan Tiida. According to the police flyer, the vehicle has black tints on its front and rear windows, and the last 2 digits on the license plate are 3 and 5. Fernandez says officers are busy brainstorming, trying to establish a psychological profile of the female suspect. He says experts are on hand assisting police.
We are looking at maybe someone who maybe had kids taken away from them. There are lines of inquiries that we are following.
Police have been baffled by the lady child abductor since she first struck back on February 16th. That's when 3-year-old Shavar Bain was kidnapped while riding his bicycle near his South Beach home. He was dropped off at a wash house on Farrington Road and Fox Hill Road the following morning. Then on March 6, 8-year-old Tyvon DeVoe was taken from a park near his home on Emmanuel Drive off Soldier Road. He was later dropped off unharmed near the entrance of the city dump. Police said the 8-year-old was also taken by a woman who was driving a gray vehicle. A similar situation unfolded a day later when 8-year-old Jaquito Sajor was abducted after he and 2 of his friends accepted a ride home from a woman. The woman reportedly allowed Jaquito's friends out the vehicle near the Cool Acres Haitian village, but made off with him in the car. She eventually dropped him off at the city dump unharmed. While police feel sure they are looking for one woman responsible for these 3 incidents, Fernandez says the question of why still remains.
We are not clear on the motive because the children are taken from point A and end up in point B and just left there.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister's wife, Patricia Min, urged parents to keep a close eye on their children, telling reporters her heart goes out to the children and families affected by recent child abductions. Jillian Gray reports.
Wife of the Prime Minister, Patricia Min, said recent reports of child abductions are upsetting.
And was quite really heartfelt for those who it happened to, and I have a 2-year granddaughter and a 12-year-old grandson. And so I just say to parents, you really has to keep that eye. As they've gotten grown, like 8-year-old, you think it's okay for them to play in their neighborhoods, but it looks like that is not true.
In recent weeks, several children between the ages of 3 and 10 years old have been reported missing to police, then dropped off by their alleged abductor hours later. 3 composite sketches have been released by police. However, no one has been taken into custody. The Commissioner of Police has said authorities are treating 3 of 6 of those incidents as serious matters.
We just have to keep an eye on our children and keep them close until the police have solved the case and see why this is happening in our neighborhood. We just have to be our neighbors' keepers.
As she lamented those recent kidnappings, she also spoke to challenges facing women in the country. As an advocate for the empowerment of women, Mrs. Min runs the Office of the Spouse. After serving in this new role for the last 9 months, she described her work as demanding yet rewarding.
There's lots of work to be done with young women in the country, especially in assisting them and promoting them to realize they have potential. And so that's what I've been going to the Family Islands and assisting young women to realize that potential.
Mistress Min was recently a part of a delegation of 100 people who traveled to the 63rd session of the Commission on the Status of Women in New York City. She said that session prompted her to advocate more for the empowerment of women here in the Bahamas, and added that she foresees her team doing great things for women.
We see that in other countries, there's so much work to be done where girls are being sold as sex slave, where they can't go to school because they need to work for the family. And here that isn't our real issue. We have issues, of course, but our issues, to me, can be solved with women organization, uplifting these girls, aiding them.
Now again, Mrs. Min said she's excited about continuing her work in the Office of the Spouse to tackle some of the major challenges that women face. Reporting for our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
2 weeks after the deadline for parliamentarians to disclose their finances, Chairman of the Public Disclosure Commission, Miles Larota, says several parliamentarians have still not submitted their declarations of assets and liabilities. Larota refused to say who those parliamentarians are, but said he's written to the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition giving them that information. Well, Seabreeze MP Lanisha Roll said she can understand why those names wouldn't be released, adding that you must be considerate of the reasons why someone did not complete the process.
I don't know the reasons why someone might have been delayed in that process, and so I'm always considerate and minded as to what may be the circumstance behind one not having done so.
A violation of the Public Disclosure Act can result in a person being fined $10,000 or imprisoned for up to 2 years. Larota said while one group of parliamentarians fully disclosed, the other did not. He was referring to those who sit in the House of Assembly versus those who are in the Senate. PLP Chairman Fred Mitchell has said all opposition senators and MPs met the disclosure deadline. Now, as for if Roll has disclosed...
Absolutely, yes.
Angleston MP Glenys Hannah Martin joining calls for the government to keep its campaign promise of transparency and accountability. Hannah Martin says it seems the deeper the administration gets into its current term, the more it displays hypocrisy. Jasmine Brown reports.
And again, it highlights the absolute hypocrisy of this government. And it's really disgraceful.
The former Transport and Aviation Minister says the most recent glaring misstep was the government's secret signing of a heads of agreement with Disney Cruise Lines for the development of a port at Lighthouse Point, Eleuthera. The Prime Minister made the surprise announcement at a town hall meeting in Eleuthera last weekend. The Prime Minister's office, in a bid to quell rising claims that the deal signed with Disney last week was secretive and lacked transparency, especially since the media was not present, issued a statement 2 days later pledging that the heads of agreement will be tabled at the House of Assembly's next meeting on Wednesday, March 20th.
We would like to have a greater accountability for this. It's really disgraceful that the government has been so non-transparent in the affairs of our people.
Hannah Martin says at the end of the day, it appears the Minutes administration has pushed all hope of accountability and transparency in the Bahamas on the back burner.
This administration is proving every day the Prime Minister is giving some perception or seeking to give a perception to the Bahamian people that he's so this and so that. But at the end of the day, when you look at the facts on the ground, it's actually quite the contrary.
Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
The chairman of the National Child Protection Council calling for harsher penalties for those who prey on children. Following recent child abductions, the council is also urging those with information on child abuse cases to come forward. Georgie Bain reports.
Bishop Arnold Josie says as each year goes by, the alarming statistics on harm against our children is heartbreaking, and he's calling on the public to do their part to protect the children.
Anyone who causes any of these little ones to lose their way, in Bible language, it says they ought to have a millstone tied around their feet, and they be dropped in the midst of the sea. My translation of that is they ought to have a concrete block tied around their foot and drop off the Paradise Island Bridge. That's how serious Jesus saw this whole business of child abuse.
Josie said while the situation here in New Providence is alarming, the situation on the Family Islands is even more heart-wrenching.
Children are being abused, and as I said, neglected, and you know, really would pain your heart. And so we're hoping that persons would reach out to us who know things, and that's one of the things we found to be very, very difficult, that people would come and talk to us.
Last week, Chief Superintendent Solomon Cash called for parents to do a better job supervising their children. Josie said the council needs answers from those in the community so that they can do their part in finding those responsible.
I don't know if it's because we're just anti-police, whatever it is, but in one of the instances, people would have seen a vehicle in the area, a strange vehicle in the area, and nobody said anything. And the other thing is, when we call the police, they don't call us.
2 books titled Stop and Think and Say No Then Go, written in Bahamian dialect by Dr. Novia Carter-Lukey, seek to get the message to younger children. According to Lukey, it's time to get back to having the stranger danger conversation.
The person that may be a perpetrator could be a family member, and so we made a switch in how we deliver our message. Sadly, so this incident makes us realize that we need to go back to looking at stranger danger.
Reporting for our News, I'm Georgie O'Bain.
Still to come, why one official says poor housekeeping is to blame for health issues at schools, plus how Queen's College is preparing the next generation of leaders. Stay tuned.